The Resolute moved through the silent darkness like a shadow carved from steel. It was not the biggest warship in the human fleet, nor the most advanced, but it carried a reputation that made even smug admirals speak with respect. She was a patrol ship stationed far from Earth's heart, watching the distant border where human space touched the great unknown. On this night, if you could call any time in deep space night, she drifted along the edge of the Nix expanse, a void so empty that navigation charts simply marked it with a single word: here be silence. Commander Elias Hale stood at the forward observation deck, his hands resting behind his back, eyes locked on the starfield ahead. Most patrols out here were uneventful long stretches of nothing broken by an occasional lost freighter or a stray asteroid. But tonight felt wrong. The comm systems were strangely quiet. Background radiation had dropped sharply. Even the ship's AI noted anomalous sensor stillness in its calm synthetic tone. Hale didn't believe in superstition, but he knew enough about space to respect its moods. And tonight, space was holding its breath. The silence broke at 0203 ship time. A faint blip appeared on the tactical display, far beyond the range of ordinary scanners. The crew leaned forward, thinking it was a sensor glitch, but the blip grew, and split and multiplied. In moments, it was no longer a single contact. It was hundreds. The long-range sensors began pulling in fragmented details: heat signatures, hull outlines, drive emissions. Multiple vessels, the sensor officer whispered, as if speaking too loudly would draw them closer. Unknown configuration, count. 197 confirmed. More incoming. Hale's heart tightened. This was not a smuggler convoy. This was not a friendly patrol. This was an armada. They were coming straight toward human space. The bridge lighting shifted. To combat red, alarms rolled through the ship. The captain, a steady, sharp-eyed veteran named Soren Viger, arrived from his quarters in seconds. His voice calm, but cutting through the tension like a blade, orders snapped through the crew. Weapons were powered, shields charged. Communication attempts were sent in every known language. No reply. The fleet kept advancing, silent, unbroken, their formation impossibly precise. At 0217, the Resolute received an urgent transmission from Fleet Command. The message was brief and final: engage at will. Defend the colony. No retreat authorized. Hale felt a chill as the captain acknowledged the order. They were one warship. The alien fleet was nearly 200 strong. This was suicide. But orders were orders. The first visual feed locked onto the enemy armada. Even through the distortion of long-range imaging, the sight was unsettling. Ships were vast, jagged, almost organic in shape, like enormous predators sculpted from dark metal. They carried no visible markings, no signal lights, no running beacons, only cold, lifeless hulls that seemed to drink in the starlight. The Resolute adjusted its course to intercept. Hull watched the distance close, each second ticking louder in his mind. The alien ships made no change in speed or formation, as if they didn't even recognize the human warship as a threat. Or perhaps they simply didn't care. The battle began at 0229. The alien fleet opened fire first. Beams of blinding white energy cutting through the void. The Resolute's shields flared under the first impact, the deck trembling beneath Hale's boots. Return fire followed instantly, railguns launching hide-and-city rounds, plasma batteries hurling streaks of burning blue into the enemy formation. The space between the two forces lit up with fury. Flashes of light blooming like silent firestorms. Hale's console fed him constant update, shield levels dropping. Hull microfractures forming, enemy positions shifting. But then something changed. A deep vibration rolled through the Resolute, different from the shudder of enemy fire. Somewhere deep in the ship's core, systems Hale had never seen active before began to stir. Warning lights blinked in strange patterns. Subsystems he didn't recognize came online, Captain Hale said carefully. Engineering is reporting a power surge. They can't trace the source. Vega didn't answer. His gaze was fixed on the tactical display, his jaw set. The vibration deepened until the whole ship seemed to be humming with a low, unnatural resonance. Then it happened. From the heart of the Resolute, a pulse of light burst outward, not in a beam, not in a weapon arc. but in a perfect sphere, expanding at impossible speed. It wasn't blinding, but it carried a strange weight, like it was bending the space around it. The alien ships were the first to react, though react wasn't the right word. The moment the wave touched them, their outlines blurred, their forms twisting as if reality itself was folding them away. One by one, they vanished. No explosions, no debris, no drifting wreckage. They were there, and then they weren't. The wave kept moving, stretching farther and farther, swallowing ship after ship. In less than 30 seconds, the Armada was gone. All of it. The battlefield was empty. The only sound was the quiet hum of the Resolutes. Engines, as if nothing had happened at all. The crew sat frozen at their stations. The sensor officer stared at her display, running scan after scan. No contacts, she said in disbelief. No debris. No radiation spikes. Nothing. Fleet Command hailed them minutes later. The voice on the other end was tight, almost urgent. Resolute, you are ordered to return to dock immediately. Secure all combat logs. This operation is now classified. Level Omega, the captain confirmed. The order. No one spoke for the rest of the journey. Hours later, the Resolute entered dock at a high-security station. Black armored personnel boarded instantly, moving with silent efficiency. Data cores were removed. Weapons logs wiped. Crew members were separated for individual questioning. Hale answered every question truthfully, but his words sounded absurd. Even to his own ears. They fired. We fired. And then they disappeared days later. The official report was released. The alien incursion was described as a sensor anomaly. The Resolute was listed as having encountered no enemy vessels. There was no mention of an armada, no mention of the strange energy wave. Officially, nothing had happened at all, but in the lower decks, in the quiet corners where crew whispered over ration coffee, one question kept circling, unspoken but heavy. If they were gone without a trace, where did they go? The Resolute had been back in dock for 3 days, yet the air inside the ship still felt thick, as if the walls themselves remembered the encounter. Crew members went about their duties under the watchful eyes of black uniformed operatives. Men and women who carried no visible insignia and spoke to no one unless necessary. They had arrived with the same cold efficiency as before, stripping the ship of every fragment of battle data. It was as if the Resolute had been gutted not in steel. But in memory, Commander Hale had expected some form of debriefing, but what he hadn't expected was the complete blackout. Not a single news outlet had mentioned the alien fleet. There were no fleet-wide alerts, no calls for readiness, no public addresses by the Admiralty. It was as if those 197 ships had never existed. When the summons finally came, it wasn't through normal channels. A young officer in a black uniform appeared outside Hale's quarters, his expression unreadable. Commander Hale, you're requested for a level Omega debrief. Follow me. The journey took him deep into the station's restricted core, past security checkpoints where retinal scans and DNA verifications were performed without explanation. Eventually, he was led into a room that was almost aggressively plain white walls, a single table, 2 chairs. A glass panel occupied one side, though Hale knew it was no window. Someone was watching from behind it. A man was already seated at the table. He was older, with the calm, still presence of someone used to holding power. He wore no rank insignia, only a simple black suit. His eyes, however, held the weight of command. Commander Hale, the man said quietly, gesturing for him to sit. I'm Director Voss. I oversee certain matters that do not appear on public fleet records. Hal sat without speaking. Voss studied him for a moment before continuing. Let's begin simply. Describe exactly what happened after the alien fleet appeared. Hale recounted the events in precise order: sensor contact, formation analysis, first engagement, then the pulse from the Resolute. He didn't embellish. He didn't speculate. He just told it as he had lived it. When he finished, Voss leaned back slightly, fingers steepled. And this energy wave. You're certain it did not come from the alien vessels? Certain, Haley said. Originated inside our own ship. Somewhere deep in engineering. Yet your chief engineer reported no such system in the Resolute schematics. That's correct. We don't have anything capable of whatever that was. For the first time, something flickered in Voss's expression, a brief shadow, gone in an instant. Commander, what I'm about to tell you is classified beyond Omega level. You will not repeat it to anyone under any circumstance. Not your captain, not your crew, not even Fleet Command without my authorization. Do you understand? Hale nodded slowly. The Resolute is not entirely what she appears to be, Voss said. Years ago, during deep salvage operations, we recovered technology from a derelict vessel outside mapped space. Not human, not from any species we've since identified. Fragments damaged beyond repair. But enough for our science division, too. Experiment. The Resolute was chosen as a testbed for integrating one of these recovered systems, a system we still don't fully understand. Hale's voice was quiet. You're saying the Resolute used alien tech against that fleet? I'm saying, Voss replied, that the system was never intended to be activated. It was dormant, locked behind failsafes we believed were unbreakable. Whatever happened out there, whatever triggered it, erased an entire armada from existence, and we have no idea how. The room felt colder now. Hal thought of the alien ships, the way they had vanished without even leaving debris. Erased, he repeated, not destroyed. Destroyed ships leave wreckage. Energy signatures, radiation, these vessels left nothing. It's as if they were displaced. Displaced to where? Voss didn't answer right away. Steady slid a small data pad across the table. The screen displayed a field of stars, subtly distorted, like looking at the universe through rippling glass. Our deep-range sensors picked up this anomaly 32 minutes after your encounter. It is moving. Slowly, but it was not there before. Hal stared at it. You think that's them? I think Voss said, that something has been moved outside normal space. And whatever this system did, it may have opened a door we cannot close. The silence that followed was heavy. Finally, Voss leaned forward. From this moment on, Commander, you are reassigned to Project Eclipse. Will remain aboard the Resolute. Your orders are to observe, to report directly to me, and to ensure that no one activates that system again. Hall didn't ask what would happen if it was activated. The answer was written in the tightness of Voss's jaw, in the unspoken weight behind his words. As he was escorted out of the room, Halle realized the truth. The disappearance of the alien armada was not the end of the story. It was only the beginning. And whatever the Resolute carried deep in her hidden core, it was far more dangerous than the fleet it had erased. The Resolute left dock under silent orders, her crew unaware of the true mission that lay ahead. The official story was a routine patrol along the Perseus Arm, a run so ordinary it barely raised an eyebrow. But for Commander Hale, the truth weighed heavier with each light year they traveled. Somewhere deep inside this ship, hidden beyond the reach of the crew's understanding, sat a system that had erased 197 alien warships from existence. And now, Hale had been tasked with guarding that secret, a secret he didn't trust. At first, the voyage felt normal. Daily operations continued, drills were run, meals served. Hay began to notice the small things, a faint hum in the deck. Plates during the ship's night cycle, delay in the environmental controls in certain corridors, the occasional flicker in the lights. Always in the same sections far from engineering, but close to the reinforced bulkhead where the recovered alien system was sealed away. He brought it up casually to Chief Engineer Radner, but she only frowned and said the readings were within normal tolerances. Hale didn't believe her, not because she was lying, but because he suspected she didn't have access to the real readings. The alien system was likely partitioned off from all standard diagnostics. If it was doing something, the crew's sensors would never see it. Then came the voices. The first time, Hale heard them in the corridor outside his quarters, faint, distant, like a conversation in another room. But when he followed the sound, the hallway was empty. Later, while inspecting storage compartments on Deck 12, he heard it again. A whisper, low and sharp, in a language he didn't know. It stopped the moment he turned his head. By the fourth occurrence, he stopped trying to rationalize it. Something was in the walls. He began to visit the sealed compartment where the alien system was housed, always under the excuse of structural integrity checks. The bulkhead was cold to the touch, colder than the rest of the ship. The hum was louder here, almost like the faint vibration of a power source running at low capacity. But the Resolute's official power grid showed no draw in this section, which meant the system was powering itself. On the 12th day of the voyage, a small but undeniable event occurred. Lieutenant Arlen, a navigation officer, failed to report. For his shift, when security checked his quarters, they found the door locked from the inside. No response. When they finally bypassed the lock, the room was empty. No sign of struggle. No indication he had left. His uniform, boots, and personal items were untouched. The ship searched for 12 hours. No trace. The incident was logged as unexplained absence, but Hale didn't need the official report to know what had happened. It was the same feeling as with the alien Fleeton absence, so complete it felt unnatural. That night, Hall received a secure transmission from Director Voss. The message was only 6 words long. Do not let it feed again. The words kept. Him awake? Feed on what? A person? An energy source? A mind? Hale didn't know, but the implication was clear. The alien system wasn't dormant anymore. It was active. And it was taking something from the Resolute as the ship moved deeper into uncharted space. Hale began to suspect it wasn't wandering aimlessly. The navigation logs seemed normal, but there were subtle shifts, slight course corrections, no? One ordered changes so small they were almost invisible. He began keeping his own manual star charts, and what he found chilled him. The Resolute was heading toward the moving anomaly. Voss had shown him in the debrief, the alien fleet or whatever was left of it was out there. And the Resolute was going straight to it. For 13 days, the Resolute drifted deeper into the void, its crew still believing they were on a standard patrol. Only Hale knew the truth, or at least the shape of it. The alien system hidden beneath? The reinforced bulkhead had been silent since the disappearance of Lieutenant Arlen. But Hal could feel its presence like a low static in the air. He didn't know if it was paranoia or something far worse, but every night he dreamed of shapes moving just beyond the walls of the ship, like predators pacing outside a campfire. On the 14th day, the first signal came. It wasn't a distress call, not exactly. It began as a single pulse on an unused frequency, too clean and too deliberate to be random noise. Communications Officer Drake picked it up during routine scans. She thought it might be a stray sensor ping from a deep space probe. But when she tried to isolate it, the pulse repeated. Same interval, same strength, but with a faint undertone. A whisper buried in the carrier wave. Drake ran it through the ship's translation matrix. The system froze, as if the data was too corrupted or too alien for it to process. Hale was in the comms room within minutes, staring at the waveform on the screen. It wasn't corrupted, it was layered. The whisper wasn't static. It was a voice. When slowed down and cleaned, the message became horribly clear. It was in English. For words, we are not gone. Drake looked shaken. Sir? If this is real, it's coming from outside the galaxy. He didn't answer. He didn't have to. He knew exactly where it was coming from, the anomaly. The place where the alien Armada had vanished. The signal repeated every 11 minutes. Each time, the voice grew louder. On the 3rd repetition, it was no longer just a whisper. Multiple voices spoke at once, overlapping in a chorus that sounded almost human but not quite. The pitch was wrong, the rhythm too precise, like hundreds of minds speaking through the same mouth. By the 5th signal, the voices had changed. They were no longer saying, "We are not gone." They were saying something else. Something far worse. "We see you." Hal ordered all non-essential communication shut down. Drake protested, saying the signal might be a chance for diplomacy, but Hal knew better. This wasn't a conversation. It was a hunt. Later that night, unable to sleep, Hale went to the sealed chamber. The guards didn't question him. He still had high-level clearance, but they watched him closely. He stood before the bulkhead, feeling the cold metal beneath his palm. The hum was stronger now, and the air felt charged, like the moments before. A lightning strike. Then, for the first time, he heard it from inside the chamber. A faint tapping. 3 knocks. A pause. Then 3 more. He stepped back, his heart pounding. The alien system wasn't just receiving the signal, it was answering. On the bridge, the course shifted again. No orders, no commands, just a subtle correction from the nav system that no one could explain. The Resolute was no longer patrolling. It was going home. Not to Earth, not to any human colony, but to the place where hundreds of alien warships had disappeared, and where something was now waiting for them. The Resolute emerged from slipstream into a stretch of space so empty it felt wrong. No stars bright enough to mark direction, no planets to anchor the mind, just a cold, black ocean. Hale stood on the bridge, watching the anomaly take shape. On the forward display, at first it looked like nothing more than a smudge against the dark, but as the ship drew closer, it became clear this was no ordinary phenomenon. It wasn't a cloud or a gas field. It was movement. Countless shapes swirling in slow, deliberate patterns, as if something unseen was shifting between dimensions. The sensors couldn't lock on to any single target. One moment they showed nothing, the next 100 blips would appear, only to vanish again. Drake's voice was low. "Sir, these readings match the size of warships." Hale didn't answer. He could already see them, vague silhouettes sliding in and out of view, their edges bending light like heat. On asphalt. The alien fleet wasn't gone. It was trapped. Or maybe it was waiting. Without warning, the Cums came alive. The same voices from before, but now they weren't whispers. They filled the bridge, echoing off the metal walls, speaking in perfect unison. "Open the door." The words made the crew freeze. Radner slammed the channel closed, but it didn't matter. The voices weren't coming from the Cums array anymore. They were in the Resolute's internal systems. The lights dimmed. A deep vibration ran through the hull, rattling every panel. The alien system in the sealed chamber was awake now, no longer hiding its presence. The hum had grown into a steady, bone-deep thrum, as if the ship itself was becoming part of something larger. Then, the first shape broke free from the anomaly. It was a warship, but wrong. Its hull was fractured, melted in places, and sections of it seemed to fade in and out of reality. No engine flare, no visible weapons, yet it moved with impossible precision, gliding toward the Resolute as if drawn by a tether, shields up. Hala barked, but the system didn't respond. Radner swore under her breath, saying the commands weren't reaching the shield generator. The alien system had locked them out. The warp ship came closer, and for the first time Hale saw a movement along its hull's maw. Insect-like machines crawling over the metal, cutting and repairing at the same time. They stopped suddenly, all turning toward the Resolute in eerie synchronization. Then the voices spoke again. "We remember you." Every screen on the bridge flickered, showing fragments of images, human warships, burning colonies, alien cities collapsing under bombardment. The pictures were old, some from wars centuries past. Hallie realized with a chill that the alien presence had seen humanity before. And it hadn't forgotten. The warp ship halted 100 meters from the Resolute, its hull splitting open like the petals of a dark flower. Inside was nothing but a black void that seemed to pull at the eyes. Hale knew, without being told, that the alien system aboard his ship was about to respond, not with weapons, but with whatever had made the First Fleet vanish. The air on the bridge felt heavy, as if the vacuum of space outside had somehow crept inside the Resolute. Every eye was on the black void, gaping open in the warped alien ship. It wasn't just darkness, it was absence, a place where light didn't dare exist. Even the stars beyond it seemed to curve away, bending like they were afraid to touch whatever was inside. Hale's instincts screamed that once they crossed that threshold, there would be no coming back. The alien system buried deep in the Resolute's core was alive now, its hum no longer subtle. The deck plates thrummed beneath their boots. Screens across the bridge lit with lines of code no human had written. Moving too fast to read. "Sir," Drake's voice cracked, We've lost helm control. The Resolute was turning, slow but steady, nose aligning with the void. Till it could. Almost feel the pull. No, not a pull. A command. Something was calling the alien system home, and the system was answering. "Cut the core feed," Hale shouted. Radner and the engineers moved in a blur, ripping access panels, trying to sever the alien tech from the ship's power grid. Sparks flew, systems groaned, but the hum only grew stronger. Then the voices came back. Not in the comms, not in the systems, in their heads. Every crew member heard the same words, the same cold certainty. Join us or be unmade. The warped alien ship began to drift backward into the void like a predator retreating to its lair, daring prey to follow. The Resolute followed without firing a shot. Hale's heart pounded. He knew the first alien armada hadn't been destroyed. They had been taken, absorbed into whatever this place was. The same fate now loomed over his crew. "Captain." Drake's voice was barely a whisper. "We could let it happen. We might learn what they are, what they want." Hale didn't answer. He remembered the images: burning colonies, broken cities, humanity at war. Whatever waited in that void didn't want peace. It wanted assimilation. With one last desperate order, Hell bypassed every safety protocol and sent a manual overload command to the alien core. The ship shuddered violently. Lights went white-hot. The hum turned into a scream, mechanical and alive at the same time. The void began to close. The warped alien ship jerked, twisting in agony, its hull fracturing into 1,000 shards. Shapes inside the anomaly moved faster, like shadows panicking, and then silence. The Resolute was free, drifting in empty space. No void. No alien fleet, just the quiet black of the galaxy. The alien system was dead, completely inert. Hale stared at the sealed chamber one last time, knowing that whatever it had been, it was gone. Or at least, it wanted them to think so. Because 3 days later, as the Resolute limped toward human space, the comms lit up with a single transmission. 4 words, same voice, same tone. "We are not gone.